John, thanks for hanging out today with me, bro.
Hey, I'm excited to be here, man.
Cool. We'll tell you what, man. To get started, maybe anybody who has no idea who you are, give us a quick, just Cliff Notes version of your story, bro.
Yeah, so my name is John Michael Perez. I grew up in South Texas. When I was about 18 or 19, I decided I wanted to be in a heavy metal band. So I moved to Houston, Texas. Um, and yeah, I mean, my life from, uh, you know, being born until then was, we grew up in dilapidated trailer, welfare, food stamps, all that jazz. And honestly, I just felt like there was more opportunity elsewhere. And so started a heavy metal band. That was super fun. Toured around the U.S. for about 8 years. And then during that time, I was waiting tables when we were back home because we did not make much money as in a metal band. But one day I decided there was more for me. And I quit my job. I quit the metal band and I got into real estate. And yeah, ever since then, found some great mentors, just surrounded myself with really good people and, just really wanted to break the chains of poverty that I felt was stuck on me. It was almost like a cloud that was just stuck to me.
Mm,
And so that's why I just challenged myself to surround myself with people that were at a higher level than me so that it would quite drastically change my life.
cool, man. Um, did you grow up in the church?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You did. Was it the kind of thing like, mom and dad said I had to do it, or were you like being deliberate about that walk when you were a
It
kid?
was absolutely mom and dad made me do
Yeah.
it. Just being
Yeah,
honest.
sure.
It was to this day. My dad, it's funny. I go to church every Sunday and my
Uh,
dad still asks me, "Did you go to church?"
good
Like,
man. Good
yes,
man.
yes, yes, Dad, I did.
So maybe growing up, not the best examples and people to look up to in terms of like personal success, but we had some faith foundation built, anyways. Um, Fast forward a bit, you're in a metal band, you're waiting tables. Actually, who was your favorite band? What was your inspiration?
What was my favorite band? Well, when I was younger, it was Metallica, Pantera. Uh,
Classic.
yeah, those guys, because we used to go to the skate park and just jam to them. And then when I got into my like teenage slash young adult age, it was more like metalcore bands. So like Under Oath, like a lot of unknown bands. I mean, not unknown. Under Oath is definitely not unknown. But bands that people probably wouldn't know if they weren't in the
Not
metalcore
mainstream.
scene. Yeah, not
Yeah, yeah.
mainstream. Yeah, yeah.
I don't listen to a lot of metal anymore, but I always appreciated how it's never just verse, chorus, verse with that kind of music. It's like a,
Yeah.
a journey
Hmm.
every time. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, let's hone in on that period. Okay, so you're traveling around, playing music, waiting tables when you're at home. What was
Hmm.
that period of life like? Like, were you working towards something real specific, or were we just kind of like hanging out, having fun?
You know what? That's a really good question. I always felt like I didn't have my own identity when I was growing up. Um, and I felt like being in a metal band may have been my opportunity to build an identity. And, I always tell people if you grow up in a small town and you feel like everyone knows you and there's no opportunity, the only way to see new results is really to move, honestly. And so that's what I had to do. I had to really get into a new environment where people believed in me. They may not have known my past or things that have, things that have held me back, and I just had this new identity. So I wanted to build something, honestly. During those times, I just wanted to create, and I've always been a creative, so I've always wanted to create something that other people enjoyed, and at the same time, like obviously, 100% honesty, it was awesome to be recognized.
Sure.
have some type of recognition when I walk into the mall and people are like, "Hey, are you in that band?" Or, walk into Subway. "Oh, you're John from Good Morning Gorgeous." That was the name of our band. But yeah, I just want something new. It was a time that I was extremely creative. I wanted to build. I wanted to do something new. Get away from the old, just the monotony of small town Texas. And so that's why I did that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I don't know if what your walk with God was like during that period, but like hearing you say that, I can see him working in you, and that like we are designed to grow and expand.
Yeah.
We do have a deep seated need for recognition.
Yeah.
That righteousness that we get from God. Right? There's a lot of ways we can try and find that on our own.
100%.
But what about the
Yeah.
physical? What was your relationship like with your body at that point?
Oh. Um,
Were you taking care of yourself, or was we like, typical heavy metal band and server lifestyle of late nights and lots of booze?
no, actually, we didn't really drink that much. We didn't do
Is that
drugs.
right?
It was, yeah, we didn't do drugs. We didn't drink. It was just really, we were just heavy metal band hanging out, a bunch of friends. And that was funny. My dad actually, he looks back at those times and he has memories of us doing like crazy stuff. I'm like, "Dad, I think you made those memories up because we never did that. We never did that." He thought we were doing drugs and drinking and all that. I'm like, "No, we were." The craziest thing that happened was when we were in Louisiana. And, like, we went to a bar. We were just dancing with random people. That was like the craziest thing. It wasn't really like that bad. No, so you know what? Let's go back a little bit. My
Sure.
spiritual walk at that time. So I grew up in the church, and I was a counselor at all. Every year at camp, I was in the worship team, on the worship team, and um, like I said, I grew up in a small town, right? So everybody knew everybody, and everybody, especially the church, they depended on the worship team, right? And honestly, in my head, the entire time was, I'm not going to live here my entire life, right? So I wasn't as important as it was to everyone else to be a part of the worship team. Just being honest.
Hmm.
Um, and and I was actually, there was a point in my life where I was really jaded because I had these big dreams and big aspirations, and one of the pastors sat us down as a band, and they told us, "Do you really think anything's going to come out of this, right? Out of the metal band, right?" And he
Yeah.
he basically said, like, "Y'all are wasting y'all's time. Like, you need to be focused on the worship team." And he sat all of us down. It was five of us, and told us, like, "Hey, you're wasting your time." And what was crazy is that, like, in my head when he was talking to me, obviously I got to respect him as an authority figure, but like I just didn't believe him. Like, I not believe him, but I didn't agree with what he was saying. Um, and it's crazy looking back. I'm not gonna lie, I was jaded because looking back, if he didn't have the worship team, it would look bad on him, right? Um, when it comes to the staff, because he was leading the entire youth ministry. So if he didn't have a worship team, like, what's going to happen, right? So I think he was probably trying to protect his recognition within the staff. Great guy. It's just at the time, you don't tell 14, 15-year-olds like, "Hey, your dream is a waste of time," right? Like, I wouldn't do that. Um,
Absolutely. How'd you respond to that? I mean, did you
100%
react in
honest,
any way?
100% honesty. That was when we were like 15, 16. And by the time we were 18 and 19, I, I just was out to prove him wrong. I'm just being honest. I'm not
Uh
going to
huh.
lie.
It's a powerful
But
motivator.
I'm not going to lie. And we somewhat did, we were top two on iTunes for a couple of months. We did really well. We were touring and all that, but there was a point in time where we decided, like, "Hey, this isn't making the money that we want to make. So go our separate ways. And it wasn't about money, really. Well, sort of was, but it was just the time wasn't right for the metal band. But really, that really motivated me, because when someone tells me I can't do something, it just makes me want to do it even more.
Uh-huh.
And so that's a core memory in my life. It's like somebody trying to tell me, hey, you shouldn't, you should probably focusing on this. When in reality, I knew their true intentions. And this is 15 to 17 years ago, when he sat us down, which is crazy. But yeah, there's a little bit of a resentment at that time, with the church, for sure. But I always had my relationship with God was always strong, right? Um, I think there's a lot of politics in some churches, unfortunately, and
Mm-hmm.
they get away from the actual word, and so like, and there's a lot of ego and pride, that, at least from my experience of 20 years in the church, um, and then I got away for 8 or 9 years, and then I came back, and so now I'm back. But some of the best churches that I've been a part of were, one, open. They were two. They were open, in the sense of everything, right? Like, hey, this is how much money is coming in. This is how much money is going out.
It's like
This
transparent.
transparent, yeah.
Mm.
They're very transparent. There was no hidden agendas. If you couldn't volunteer, they weren't going to be mad at you because you have a whole nother life that you have to take care of. Stuff like that. It was really, those are some of the best churches I've been a part of. And not guilt tripping you if you couldn't volunteer. Like, that's
Yeah, it sounds like
crazy.
grace is the
Grace. Yeah.
common denominator there.
Really, it really is.
Yeah,
Yeah. But that
yeah,
was my experience. There's so many people that have different experiences, but I've heard, a lot of people have been jaded by the church, unfortunately. Um, but I think there is a new opportunity, and obviously, there's probably a big movement right now trying to change that. So that's a good thing.
yeah, absolutely. I actually was reading recently. They talk about how when you look over the course of church history, you can see every so often, maybe 50 years or so, I don't remember, but there's revival tends to happen on a
Mm-hmm.
almost on a schedule, and that we're due. So I don't remember
Mm.
if you ever saw the Ashbury revival
Yeah,
thing
I
that was
did.
going on for a while. Yeah, so that had my bells ringing. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, yesterday, God was just moving in me, and I was in my living room. And full transparency, my kiddo is in his diaper, and I'm in my box, and I'm in my underwear. Right? I'm
It's real
not
life.
just it's real life. This is real life, right? And I put on some worship music, and I start, just getting in my time with God, and my kiddo, he's looking at me. He's playing with his toys, and he's just looking at me. He's trying to figure out what's going on because he's 3 years old, right? He doesn't really know what's going on. And I'm just worshiping God, and I think I was playing Touch of Heaven, or Build My Life, one of those. But I was just in it, right? Like, I was just praying for my friends. I was praying for my roommate that's living with us. I was praying for, some of my clients and stuff like that. Praying for vacation that I'm going on. And it was funny because, so my son, his name's Braden, and he does this thing where he puts his hands out and he spins, right? He does this spinning thing, like, where he gets dizzy. But he saw my hands out, right? And in my living room, and he started doing the hand spinning thing because he thought I was doing that too. Uh, but it's crazy because, like, my kid, he's a little bit of he's a tornado. I will say that. He's got a lot of energy. But it was cool because, like, when that worship music was blasting in our living room, he, like, calmed down. He was doing the hand spinny things, and he was just watching me, right? And I think one of the best examples um, for children, to be an example for children, is just to lead by example, right? And I think a lot of leaders, they lead by words with accept actions. And for me, I want to be I really want to be a lighthouse and not a tugboat when it comes to bringing people to God. Um, because what I've noticed is a lot of times when people are tugboats, people want to what's fight against that tugboat, right? They want to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Similar to when um, I was in the worship band and that guy was being a tugboat, right? He was saying, "Hey, come back over here," and I was like, "I don't want to go over there," right? Um, and that's one thing that I would say is, as a Christian, as a follower of Christ, it's like, how do we become bigger lighthouses? Instead of tugboats, you know, how do we just be an example? Because like my little kid was just watching me praise God. Like, I think it's just planting small seeds over a long period of time of being that example.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point too. There's a verse that says that all spiritual wisdom comes from God, right? Like ultimately, it's not our job to convict people, right? It's our job to be that light in the world, to have a life that looks so different from the people around us that people are just drawn to it, right?
Yeah.
And kudos to you on that. That's an awesome story on your living room there, man. I think that's going to be a core memory for Braden when he grows up, bro.
I hope so.
He's
I
he's
hope
gonna
so.
he's gonna remember that and know what it was.
I hope so.
Yeah, but yeah,
Okay, so
man.
physical. Let's go back to physical.
Yeah,
You're asking about that.
yeah. So
Um,
we're traveling a lot. Schedule is probably all over the place. Like, were you training at that time at all? Was it even on your radar?
funny you asked that because we were working out quite often. Um, when we were on tour, especially, we brought weights and we were doing our own workouts. One of our guitar players was big into fitness, and so we would just sort of follow his lead. And then we were running in new cities, which was really cool. Um, but at the time, it wasn't like a regimented thing. It was more, hey, I think I'm going to go for a run, or hey, I think I'm going to lift some weights. It wasn't really like on a schedule or organized at all.
Was it something you saw that like benefited the process for you, or again, were you just trying to get that youthful energy out?
Well, at that time, so there is a weird time period because when I was 17, 18, I just got out of high school. I was playing varsity basketball, super fun, but I still wanted to work out. And honestly, like between you and I and everybody that's listening, um, so I had my first girlfriend later in life, and it was a big self conscious thing for me. I had zero confidence, and uh, so for me, working out was a way to look better, and be more attractive.
Yeah.
Um, And, one of my first goals was to get a six pack. And I finally achieved that at like 18, I think 18 or 19. It's not here anymore. But I was just working out super hard, super calorie deficit, running 10 miles a day. But it wasn't like getting a six pack the right way, right? Like
Sure.
I really wasn't even drinking protein that much. Like I wasn't, it was just a super unhealthy calorie deficit, and that's how I got a six pack. Uh, but 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 that was I was fairly consistent. Pretty much, I was fairly consistent. Uh, from 18 to 25 is at least going to the gym a couple times a week.
Yeah, man. So, for the most part, between like finding some success in music and, um, walking with God and, to some degree your fitness is being taken care of too. Like, I don't hear a lot of reasons to step away from that situation. So like, what
Mm.
what was the catalyst for that step into real estate? Was there like an incident? Was it a kind of a ongoing process?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm telling you all the good stuff, but there was a lot of bad stuff that was happening during that time too. One was, I lost my mom back in 2013 from cancer, and and that was really tough on me mentally. Um, because I grew up a mama's boy. And also, I lost my dog. Somebody stole my dog. That was so lame.
Not cool, no doubt.
Not cool. Yeah, I know. And then, lost my band, lost the dog, lost my mom, my grandpa that taught me how to be a musician, passed away as well. It was just a really tough time, in my life. At around like from age 22 to 25 was a really tough time in my life. So I think that around age 25 was when I started, thinking I wanted to start getting into real estate. Um, I've always been really good at putting my back against the wall and figuring out a solution. And so when there was there was a day I drove this yellow Cobalt. I saved up a ton of money. To me at that time, it was like $2,500. I saved up $2,500 to buy this yellow Cobalt. I think it was one of the first cars I ever purchased by myself. And I was heading to work. I worked at this breakfast restaurant called Kirby Lane, and it was raining. And I'm going around, I'm doing a U-turn under this underpass, if that's what you call it. And unfortunately, I slid into the median and my tire broke, and I essentially crashed in the middle of the street, and hit my tire, my ball joint, like a lot of stuff underneath the car. And there was a deciding factor. That was the deciding factor, because I got out of my car. I was super upset because I only had a couple $100 to my name at that time, and I realized that something needed to change. Right? I think I was 24, 25 at that time. Only had a couple $100 to my name, and I call my fiance at the time, wife now. I said, I don't know what to do. I'm going to work, how am I going to get this car back to our place? How am I going to get to work? Luckily she had a car, so she was able to get off work and go pick me up, but we had to get a tow truck and all that. But what I realized is there's got to be something more out there for me. And that day I knew there was something out there for me and I just didn't know what. So within that time, and about 2 months later, I saved up as much money as possible, and I quit my job on a whim, thinking I was going to be a full-time musician. That didn't work out. About 2 weeks in, that did not work out. I made $0. So I Googled how to become a millionaire, and the third option was real estate. And so I called my wife and I'm like, hey, I think I'm getting into real estate. She was like, John, you just quit your job. I thought you were going to be a full-time musician. And she goes, how are you going to get into real estate? And I go, well, I found these courses online. They're going to be about $900. She goes, well, where are you going to get $900? And so, and that was one of those back against the wall moments where I really had to figure out how to figure it out. So, but what's really cool is we figured out how to get that $900. And so now I'm at my house. Right now I am, but my wife is downstairs watching our kid, and she doesn't have to work now, right? Because I was able to find that $900 because I figured out a solution from when I got in that wreck and my entire car was jacked up, but in life, you're going to have so many obstacles, and sometimes your back's going to be against the wall, but it really depends on what decisions and what attitudes you bring to the table when you are in those circumstances,
That's right. Yeah, man, that burn the boats mentality. When you have no other option, like, you'll find a way. And I think that discomfort is one of the ways that God forces us to move in the directions that he intends us to,
100%.
I think if you're uncomfortable with your life and you're dissatisfied and frustrated, that's a good thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a signpost, and it's pointing you where you ought to be.
Well, they say, when you pull back an arrow, it goes through an immense amount of pressure, right? But once you let go of that pressure, where did that arrow go? It goes forward, right?
That's
so
right.
A lot of times people are in this moment right here where it's being pulled back and it's under immense amount of pressure, right? And so you just got to keep going, keep pushing, and eventually that arrow is going to hit its target.
How was it getting started? Did things happen pretty quick? Like, was it another year or two of being broke and grinding, or talk me through that a little bit?
Yeah, so I went all in from the very beginning. I used to wake up super, I'm not used to, I still wake up early, but from the beginning, I woke up very early, started my real estate day. And honestly, it took me about 5 months of just solid grinding, like solid, just working until I saw my first real estate paycheck, like, which is insane, 5 to 6 months. Um, but the catalyst of me seeing big results was finding a mentor around month 4. Right, month
Okay.
4 was really where I saw the biggest growth and change. Um, and that mentor, his name's Ben Love. He helped me out a ton get to where I wanted to be, and he really just shifted the way I thought. He made me realize that in order to be successful in real estate, you have to be more relational than transactional. And so my entire mindset changed from how do I build more solid, genuine relationships than focusing on the actual transaction, and because the transaction is going to figure itself out. And yeah, finding a mentor for sure.
I remember reading a story, one of your posts or something, but it was talking about maybe a more veteran agent had messaged you and was like heckling you, like, stop acting like you've been selling any houses or something to that effect.
Oh,
Um, what's that story there?
oh man, that was a long time ago. I can't believe you remember that story. Yeah. So when I first started, I only sold 7 houses my first year, but I did do about 20 leases. So leases are substantially less in pay, and they're more work, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But I mean, they're still technically a unit of sales. So that first year, there was an agent who was, quite frankly, I don't know how to say it in Christianese, but he was just a jerk. Let's just say that. Very prideful, had a huge ego. And he would constantly remind everyone how good he was doing, without, that's not a bad thing, except for he would never like share any secrets. He would never collaborate. And so basically I posted one day, I don't know, super happy to help this client. And he messaged me privately and was like, you act like you sell houses, blah, blah, blah. And what's crazy is that really had a hold on my mindset. I allowed his thoughts and his opinions to have an anchor on my actual business. And so what happened is I was always competing against him, right? He was always way up here and I was always competing. I was always trying to get to that level, right, of where he was. And what I realized over a period of time, I stopped focusing on him and I just focused on my production, my relationships. I focused on my vision for the bigger goal. And, a few years later, I look back at where he's at and I've surpassed his sales by tons, right? Millions, literally millions in sales. But what's crazy is at the time when I first started, I was so focused on him. Like I was so focused on him. And so it was just really a mindset shift of, yes, there's always going to be somebody that does more than you. There is always going to be someone that may even, brag to you about how awesome they are or what's cool about what they've got going on. But one, you always have to audit who you're surrounding yourself with. And if they have results, are they sharing, their wins, their secrets? What type of person are they? What type of heart are they leading with? Are they leading with a servant's heart, or are they leading with look at me, look at what I can do, And so that's one thing that I've always challenged myself is I'm going to put it all on the table and let everybody know how I'm doing, what's working for me, what's not working for me. Because at the end of the day, I think that collaborating with other winners and actually building each other up is going to bring us so much farther, and help everyone faster. And so, yeah.
That's so great, man. I remember like when I first got into the gym thing, struggling with that a little bit, like feeling like you can't give away all the secrets or people are going to steal it or, whatever. And that's just so small minded. And
Yeah.
even the few gyms that I've kind of collaborated with, and I'll meet with the owners occasionally and just talk shop and best practices and stuff like that. And yeah, everybody wins. Everybody wins.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard, I don't remember who talks about this, but talking about how nobody who's ahead of you or nobody who's where you want to be is going to like talk down to you
Yep.
or give you a hard time for trying to grow.
Yeah.
Right. I think
It's
that,
so true.
so true. So true. Um, I think it's just easier too, if you're not living your potential, to just break the other people down around you rather than to
Right.
drive yourself forward.
Yeah. I think it comes from a place of having their own insecurities and trying to, how do I say this? They're not even aware of their own insecurities. So they're trying to bring other people down, right? Instead of lift them up, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And, and it, I understand, this guy that was talking continuously bad about me for no reason at all. He comes from a family that has done a lot, right? They've already have these big networks. They've already, his dad was a professional athlete. So a lot of people trusted him because of his dad, which is really cool. But I think that maybe he felt insecure because he might have not been adding up to what his family has done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am. But, just those insecurities will eat at you. They'll definitely eat at you and actually take you down um, fast. So, yeah.
Well, obviously you've come a long way, man. Like you're almost becoming like the face of your industry, like in our area. Um, what 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 have things been like more recently, and more specifically, when we talk about your walk with God and your fitness and the ways you take care of those aspects of yourself? How does that intertwine with your day to day now?
From, when I first got that mentor 6 months into my career, one of the biggest things that he's always pushed me to do, and we don't work together anymore, but we're still in each other's lives. He's always told me to lead with my heart and lead with a servant's heart, right? And so for me, I'm constantly trying to figure out how I can add value to other people, and then not expect anything in return, right? And so coming with that mindset of how can I give so much and still not expect anything, right? Like literally have those expectations of if nothing comes from this, that's okay, right? Um, and what I found out is the more that I give, the more value that I give without expecting anything in return, the more results, the more results, like just they come. They're just natural. It's like it's so weird, and it's the weirdest thing. But I'm basically, how do we plant so many seeds into so many people, positive seeds, like so many seeds of hope, seeds of community, seeds of um, value in any way, shape, or form, whether it be education, whether it be knowledge, whether it be training, whether it be the news that's going on in our area, whether it be discounts that I found out over here at Costco because a t-shirt is now $5 instead of $40. So I'm going to tell everybody, right? That's value, right? And so his piece of advice of leading with a servant's heart without expectations of receiving anything in return has helped me literally sell millions upon millions upon millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of real estate because I'm not expecting anything. I'm really not. Like, and it's crazy. And what's crazier is that when you do that and you have zero expectations, people know you're a genuine and authentic person because you're not expecting anything in return, right? So I would much rather work with someone that has no hidden agenda, right? They're not thinking about what they can get out of it. They're thinking about how they can genuinely help me. I would much rather work with that person, right? Than someone that's constantly telling me, oh, well, if you do this, if you do this, you can sell your house, and I'd love to sell your house, and I'd love to sell your house, and this is all the cool things that I've done, and I'd love to sell your house. It's like, what's crazy is I separate, like, I do share my wins a lot on my Facebook and on my Instagram and all that. But like when it comes to actual like person to person conversation, I'm really not talking about real estate. I'm really not.
The Bible talks about how it's more blessed to give than receive. And I just think that's so, like, there's so much to unpack there. So it goes so deep, right? Because I think, like, in the Bible, we're probably talking like eternal spiritual blessings, but I think it's pretty literal too, in that when you give, it has like antidepressive, anti-anxiety effects internally. And then, like you're describing, a lot of times too, that actually results in like literal material blessings.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome. Did you watch the that Alex Hormozy book launch recently?
Yeah, it was a beautiful illustration of giving and adding value without asking anything in return.
Yeah.
It was, the ending was such a move. It was like, and literally, I've been trying to do something similar to that for a long time, but and I've got it from him. I'm not gonna lie, that's exactly who I got it from, was Alex Hormozy.
Oh, no
And
judgment, man. I had a man crush on Alex Hormozy before it was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. He's blown up within the last 2 years, and he's changing the game when it comes to marketing.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Absolutely. Have you read the book, Expert Secrets, that Russell Brunson book? It's about like click funnels and how to build funnels and do webinars and stuff.
No, but you're like the third person to tell me to read
it. It's worth your time. But the reason I bring it up is because if you look at that book and then watch that book launch, like play by play, he is following this webinar script as Russell Brunson lays it out. And it was comical to me because it was transparent. I could see what was happening, but I still found myself inside like, yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's such a psychological play, like stacking value, and then showing what the perceived value is of each stack, and then giving an insane price at the very end, right? Yeah.
Well, man, tell me about kind of along the same lines. Like, how do you balance all that stuff? Right, you're like all over the place. Between like your work, obviously you have your own podcast and the dad's group and the basketball tournaments you run and all that stuff. Where does like church and your family? When do you get your workouts in? Like, what does that look like logistically?
I think my answer is not going to be a good one. It's hard to balance what I've got going on. I'm not going to lie.
That's a good answer.
I will say, balance is something that I've never been good with. I tend to delegate a lot of the things that I don't want to do. And I think delegation is probably one of the weakest things that people can get to, as in like people don't do it enough, right? Delegation. And then for me, so I've pretty much put a value on my time. And if I'm not making that much money per that time, then I'm going to delegate it out, so for me, it's like, I don't know, let's say it's $300 per hour. And so if I'm not getting at least $300 in value over a long period of time, then I'm not going to do it. And I'm going to ask somebody else to do it for me. You know what I mean? So that's helped me a ton, right? So like I have an assistant. She helped, I was writing down all the events I've done in 2023 alone. And I think it's like 9 events that we've already done in 2023, and we've raised about 15 grand so far.
That's awesome.
And which is really cool. But like pretty much, I owe it a lot to my assistant. I'm not even gonna lie. She's helped me a ton, with the flyers, with the RSVP, with the setting up the venue, with the music, with the actual, with the food, with the drinks, all that kind of stuff. Just at least setting it up for me, and then I'm just promoting it, promoting it, promoting it. Um, yeah, delegating is definitely one thing, and then you know I'm what's cool is I sort of have designed my life to where, the things that I love doing is also a networking opportunity as well, you know? So like the events, I actually love going to events. The basketball, that's a networking opportunity as well. Although I don't push hard at at the basketball, the workouts, the runs, all that, it's building relationships. And so that's just a part of my life. And it's also helping me physically as well, you know? Um, and then, I don't go on a vacation enough. I'm not going to lie. I do not. I need to take some more rest days.
Yeah, but a big part of what you're describing is like finding ways to incorporate your work into your rhythm without it
hmm
having to be like this cut and dry black and white, like now I'm working and now, I'm disconnected from work because I hate the work piece so much. And I don't
Yeah.
think that's about, it's not going to be fun every single day. Every moment of every day, there's components of everything that's going to suck sometimes. But I think for me, viewing my work through the lens of like my life's work and what I'm trying to build and the bigger picture of it all has been so helpful versus again, punching in, grinding your teeth and just
Yeah.
kind of getting through. Let me ask something more pointed though. What about your workout specifically? What is your routine like right now? Are you doing anything specific? What about nutrition?
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, a lot of trainers don't like people when they say this, but I've been doing
No
75
judgment.
hard.
No judgment.
Yeah, I've been doing. Yeah, I've been doing 75 hard quite consistently. We just got done with a round, a couple days ago. Um, for me, routine is the most important thing. And so if I don't have a routine, my body tells me, "What are you doing?" And so basically, I play basketball 4 times a week, and then then I try to do, for the other workout. It's either a walk or a light jog, and then I will go to the gym and do, either, chest on Mondays or abs around Wednesdays, and then legs on Fridays. Yeah,
Well, no judgment there, man. I've done 75 hard. I failed twice, got it once.
nice.
But for me, like having been through it, I feel like the value was a lot less about um, how hard the workouts were per se. Like
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of character traits you develop through doing really difficult workouts when you're sore and you don't want to do it and all that stuff. But the structure that it forces you to have to get
Yep.
everything done was far more impactful for me than like any kind of aesthetic change that happened as a result of it. So I think even from the fitness purist, it gets a bad rap. If someone's totally out of shape and they just walk twice a day religiously, like it's going to have a positive impact. I
Yeah, my body, I mean, even being off for about a week now, my body is like, what are you doing? Because I've probably done 75 hard 7 times, and I've actually achieved 75 hard like 4 times, right? So I think it's like 4 out of 7 I've actually finished. Um, but this is over the last 2 years, and so, or 2 to 3 years. I remember doing 75 hard when Braden. So yeah, it was 3 years because Braden, he was being born, and I was doing a workout outside of the the hospital, before he actually was born, and then he was in the NICU for a few months. So I was still doing those workouts outside of the hospital. Um, so yeah, it's been about 3 years now. Um, yeah, but it's always helped me, at least on the routine side. And then the mindset, it's like I can't waste time. If I'm wasting time, then things are going to have to be pushed back. I'm going to have to drink a gallon of water at the end of the day, and I'm gonna have to do an outside workout at 11 p.m. Like that's not fun. So I have to really make sure I'm on in line the entire day.
Yeah, and I think whether it's just extra energy or being more effective because you're more confident or whatever, I feel like the time you invest into your workouts, like you always get it back. Like it's always a
Yeah,
net positive in one way or another. So
for sure, I agree.
tell me about your podcast, bro. Who's it for?
My
What's it about?
podcast.
Yeah, what's it all about?
All right. So my podcast, so it's called Real Estate Virgins. We're a top 10 real estate agent centric podcast in the U.S. One cool thing is we're just consistent every single week. We're putting out content. It's all about elevating real estate agents that may feel like they're in a funk, or they may be in a rut, and so we're trying to really push agents and share all of our strategies. Like we were talking about earlier, we literally put it all out on the line. We tell everybody everything that's working for us, what's not working for us, and then we built a community of agents that are, like we said earlier, surrounding ourselves with people that want to progress but don't have egos and pride. It's just such an awesome community, and it's fun, man. It's just part of that routine. Every Thursday or Friday, we're recording a new episode. This week we recorded 2 because I'm going to be on vacation next week. Yeah.
If you had to give one piece of advice to a young real estate agent looking to make moves in the industry, what would it be?
Partner up with me.
I like it.
Yeah. No. So I said it several times throughout this entire episode is that the quicker you surround yourself with people that have the results that you want to have, the quicker you'll have those results. And so for me, I'm constantly trying to find people that are doing bigger and better things than I am, and then surrounding myself with those people. And it's helped me continually progress.
Well, I want to move through, I'll call it the 3-question lightning round, just kind of boom, boom, boom.
Perfect.
Things that I hopefully will be just kind of impactful and help some people. What have you read recently that has inspired you or changed your perspective in a meaningful way?
Ooh, I got a big library to the left of me. How Successful People Grow by John Maxwell. I just read that one. Just finished that one. That's a great book. It talks about how successful people grow, right? And not just people that are just trying to live mundane lives. What else? The Magic of Thinking Big. That's a really good book. I've read that several
Classic.
times. Yeah. That one's really helped me think bigger. It has a story in that book about how the regular guy, how does one person make, 150 grand and another person that has the same exact job make 50 grand. It's because the person that makes 150 grand is thinking 3 times bigger, and they didn't have any crazy skills, anything much differently. It was just they were thinking bigger and doing different things because they thought bigger. What's another good book? $100 million Offers, obviously. I would say I just finished that one again. But I would say if you're just starting your entrepreneurial journey, $100 million Offers might not be understandable. Just because some of the tactics and strategies that he talks about, you may not understand until you actually have started to have clients or started to lead generate.
Kind of got in motion,
yeah, got in motion already. So yeah,
that one I've read cover to cover, but since then I usually keep it nearby, and it's almost more of just a reference, rather than something I will read it for the story itself.
Yeah.
Who are 3 people who have been most influential to you that you think people should be paying attention to?
So that depends on what industry you're in. Here's my top 3, and people will not know one of them. A lot of you may know 2 of them. Ed Milet, he's awesome dude. He's entrepreneurial. He's a part of
so positive.
Yeah, he's super positive. if you've ever been in the room when he's talking, it changes your physiology. If that makes any sense.
It does.
I talked to him once, and I told him, dude, I feel like the Holy Spirit is all over you. And he was like, wow. He said, thank you for saying that. That's the first time I've ever heard that. But it's true. I feel like I think God's gifted him with the ability to speak and speak the right words to the right people. Andy Frisella, he's a no BS type person, and he doesn't beat around the bush. He tells you like it is, and he's really good when it comes to sales and building massive businesses. And then Ben Love. So Ben Love is the guy who helped me get into real estate. He actually just got promoted to lead a Keller Williams Market Center, which is really awesome. Big congrats to Ben.
Yeah.
We used to be in the trenches in a small 100 square foot office, just making calls all day, building relationships, making videos, and he was really one of the first guys that helped me launch my career.
Cool, man. Where can our listeners find you online?
At John Michael Perez on Instagram. That's really the main place that I've been trying to push people to go to. You can also find me on Facebook, John Michael Perez. Somebody added me the other day and said they found me on TikTok. I'm on there, but I'm not as active as I'd like to be. And then I just started a LinkedIn, so that's cool. I'm trying to figure that out. But for the main part, Instagram is really where I'm sharing the most value.
John, thank you for hanging out with me today, bro.
Super fun, man. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really feel blessed to know you as a person. Seriously, I love seeing your journey, and it's cool, man. I'm excited for what you have got going on next too.
Same to you, my friend.
Same.